Okay, in this video we're going to talk about our last way to solve a system of equations, which is using elimination. Let's just start with an example and see if we can figure it out from there. So I'm going to start with this equation, 2x plus 3y equals 8, and 5x minus 3y equals negative 1. So when we say an equation, we mean the left side equals the right side. And so if the left side of this equation is equal to the right side, and the left side of this equation is equal to the right side, if I add the two equations, the left side should be the same as adding the two equations right side. So that's an interesting fact about equations, that we are allowed to do it. And let's try it out, see what happens. So if we add 2x plus 5x, we get 7x. And if we add 3y and negative 3y, we get 0y. And if we add 8 and negative 1, we get 7. So just adding the two equations, we get this equation, which I'm going to rewrite as 7x is equal to 7, because I don't need to write 0 times y, that's 0. And now notice that this is like, the answer we got after about halfway through this solving by substitution. Our whole point was to try and solve for x, try and get x by itself, and if we just divide both sides by 7, we immediately get an answer for what x is. We're still not done, we still have to find y, but we're halfway done in almost no steps. So that's the beauty of elimination, is when you have a positive and a negative right next to each other, if you can add them up and get a 0, that saves you a lot of the steps that you would otherwise be using on substitution. So I still need to finish this problem. Now that I know x is 1, I should plug that into one of my other equations to figure out y. And it doesn't look like either one of these is going to be really easy to solve, so I'll just pick the top equation. 2 times x, which is 1, plus 3 times y is equal to 8. 2 times 1 is 2, and I'll just subtract 2 from both sides. So that tells me 3y is equal to 6. And dividing by 3 tells me y is equal to 2. So our solution is those two things in a box, or xy is equal to 1 comma 2. Okay. Yes, so elimination can be a little messy because we have equations all over the place. Let's look at another example, same thing. So let's try and solve the system of equations. 2x plus y equals 3, and 3x plus 4y is equal to 2. Okay, so this is not going to work out quite as nicely as the previous problem. The previous problem, we had a positive 3y and a negative 3y, add them up, wonderful, they automatically add up to 0. This, if you add up the x's, they're not going to add up to 0. If you add up the y's, also not going to add up to 0. So we need to tweak them a little bit to get that to happen. And so we have to go back to what things are we allowed to do to an equation. I can't like add 3 here, because then that's really adding 3 y's, and I would have to do the same on both sides. I can multiply both sides to an equation by a number. And if you stare at this long enough, you could see we can make this into a 4y and a negative 4y if we multiply the top equation by negative 4. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. It's not the only way I could solve it. I could also turn both of these into a 6 by multiplying the top by 3 and the bottom by maybe negative 2. So we'd have a 6x and a negative 6x. So be creative trying to get the same number with opposite signs, but we should be able to do something. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to write this or organize this a little strange. I'm going to recopy both equations, but the only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to multiply the top one by negative 4. So top equation times negative 4 would be negative 8x minus 4y equals negative 12. And then the bottom equation, I'm not going to change at all. I'm just going to rewrite it. And mainly this is just so that I don't have equations all over the place for no good reason. I have the same two equations. I've changed the top one, but I still have two equations. And the reason I like having them ordered this way is that it makes it easier to add the two equations. So if I add the two equations, Negative 8x plus 3x would be negative 5x. Negative 4y plus 4y is 0y. And negative 12 plus 2 is negative 10. And so we have minus 5x equals minus 10. And then divide both sides by minus 5. X is equal to 2. And once I know x is equal to 2, pick whichever of the equations above. You can use any one. Whichever one makes it easiest to find y. And this one seems like it's going to be the least annoying since there's no coefficient on y. So let's take the top equation. 2 times x would be 2 times 2 plus y is equal to 3. So this is the top equation with x is 2. So 4 plus y is equal to 3. We subtract 4. We get y is equal to negative 1. So our answer would be 2 comma negative 1.